So basically, we got E, D, P, and cementum. We have the enamel, the dentin, the pulp, and then the cementum. And those are the main things that we're going to be talking about. So let's start with the pulp and the dentin. What are the differences? So basically, the pulp is more of like connective tissue. It has nerves. It's just mainly water, ECM, stuff like that. Then we have the dentin, which is mainly like inorganic. So 70% is inorganic, 20% is organic, and the collagen it's made of is type 1. And let's talk about what both of these can do. They're both derived from the dental papilla or the ectomesenchyme and neuropress cells. And we have two cell types. For the pulp, we have the fibroblasts, which make the collagen. And this is going to be very important. Remember, fibroblasts make collagen. And then for dentin, we have the odontoblasts, where we have a resting one, would be preodontoblast. It'd be like a little like sac. And then the secreting active one, it'll be like a little longer. And then it have the little like nucleus at the bottom.
Polarized nucleus.
Polarized nucleus. And then let's go see how the pulp, how we can like distinguish it. First, we have the coronal pulp, which is from the crown. Then we have the radicular pulp, which is from the root. And this is like very basic. So at the top of the pulp, remember odontoblast pulp, we have those like columnar almost shaped or like ovoid, but mainly columnar, odontoblast. We have the cell-free zone, so we don't see any cells right here. Then we have the cell-rich zone. We start getting cells again. Periodontal nerves, remember, this is still the loose connective tissue here, which is 75% water and got 25% ECM. Then we have the bulk of the tissue. Another thing to note is the plexus of Raschko, and that's basically like between the cell-rich zone and the nerves. You might have like these like little lines, and those are like specific nerves for it. And odontogenic zone is odontoblast, cell-free zone, cell-rich zone. And then what else do we have? Let's go back here. So for pulp, a lot of the questions that we're going to be asked about are going to be about age. So as age goes up, the pulp size is lower because like you're starting to form all that dentin above it, dentinogenesis, and you have the enamel over it, so it just like starts to shrink. And then that means because pulp size is lower, remember how it's innervated, you're gonna have less vascularity, less nerves, and it's gonna become calcified, not decalcified. And those calcification stones can be free, attached to the dentin, embedded to the dentin, and they can be either true, which would have like fibers of the outside, basically, and then false would be just concentric, would just be like a circle. And then, yeah, as we talked about it, young people have very thick pulps, while older people have very thin pulps, so it's like hard to reach the root. And that comes into practice like in actual clinic. Then we have the tertiary dentin, which protects our pulp, and basically it's just a thick extra layer. And then we have the hydrodynamic theory, where let's say we have some pressure that hits on the dental tubes from the dentin, and then the pulp nerve gets activated, and that's how it happens.
For tooth sensitivity, for pulp sensitivity.
For pulp sensitivity.
Yeah.
And then let's go to cementum, actually. That makes the most sense now. We have the cementum, which is made out of the dental follicle, as well as the PDL and the alveolar bone, which we'll talk about a bit later. The cementum is mainly made out of the cementoblasts, which are the active ones. And then we have the cementocyte. And whenever you hear the site, it's like the within. Remember like how there's like osteoblast, osteocyte, we have the cementocyte. And that's just within. It's not as active. Sometimes it's active, but it's in very like rare cases. So cementum function, the primary function is attachment and then root repair. But we gotta remember that attachment comes up a lot for cementum. Characteristics, avascular, because remember, it's I want to say like
It's
similar to-
mineralized.
Mineralized, yeah, similar to bone. It's the most similar to bone. No innervation, continual reattachment of PDL fibers, and then highly responsive. And again, like bone, type 1 collagen. It seems like type 1 collagen is the main type of collagen, so if you had to guess, type 1 collagen. And then let's go to the periodontum and how it's made up. We have the cementum here in green. You have the PDL fibers right here. And then we have the alveolar bone, as well the gingiva that's opposing to the teeth. And then within the cementum, there are like certain things that can happen. So first, the cementum does meet the enamel, and it can overlap. It can, what is it?
OMG.
OMG was M.
So
meet,
overlap, meet, and gap.
and then gap, okay. And O is the most common, so overlap is the most common. And then we have two things such as the cementoid. Where's the cementoid? So it's like between the predentins, again, the sandwich. Between the predentin and the cementum, you have these cementoid, which is unmineralized. Then we have the cementicle, which are ovoid, and they are on the cementum, on the surface usually. And then another thing for continual reattachment of the cementum, you can have a reversal line, so it's like a little bit off put. And then, what else? I think we covered most of the things. I think we
The
might have-
cemento dentin junction, the CDJ.
Oh, CDJ, okay. So CDJ, it has like a tight mix because as we know, the dentin and the cementum are, when they form together, they're basically like a deck of cards. Remember how like if you like try to shuffle a deck of cards like together, they just like lay on top of each other. That's how it is, and that's why it's like very fuzzy border in terms of like trying to distinguish them. And then the last thing that I just wanted to mention was mineralization, and this graph right here in terms of cementum. So for cementum, we have primary, secondary, and mixed. The primary is acellular. Think about extrinsic via fibers, and it's in the upper 2/3. So it would be in the upper 2/3 of the we call it root. And then for the cellular, the secondary, we mainly repair and adapt, and made up of the intrinsic fibers, lower third, and bifurcation of the tooth. And then not every tooth has a cellular one. And for the mix, we have adaptation, and it could be made up of the cellular or acellular. And the fibers are made of either the PDL fibroblasts, which produce the collagen for the primary and cellular mix, while the cementocyte is what makes up the intrinsic fibers. And remember how we talked about how they're embedded within the cementocytes? The cementocytes gotta go outside somehow when they wanna like secrete something, or like when they wanna do something. So that's why they have the conculi to reach for nourishment. And then the last thing, mineralization, enamel, the most outside layer is the most mineralized. Dentin comes in second at 7%. Cementum, which is basically like the closest to bone, is at 45%. And then we have the pulp, and that's the mineralization. And we talked about pulp, dentin, cementum, periodontum. How long was that?